Hey folks, it's Jay here from Will's VG Addiction. Got another Super Famicom here with another capacitor problem. Let's go ahead and pop that on, show what it looks like, and show how we're going to fix it. So you can kind of see that little line in the middle too. But the screen's super dark. I'll just wait for it to roll over to the character screen so you can kind of see how dark it is and see how the picture's a little messed up on the edges. So I've done a bunch of these cap replacement videos already. I'm gonna do another one since I got this snazzy microscope here. We're gonna do it a little bit better than what we've done in the past, so bear with me. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but the colors are really dark and off, and then you've got these, I don't know, like lighter spots here on the edge. Again, I'm not too sure how well that's gonna show up on the video, but they're there. So we're going to replace the caps and do a comparison video. Actually, I guess I should show in contrast what a working or more functional console will look like at the startup. You can still kind of see those black lines on the video. I can't really see them on the monitor, but see the text is a lot lighter, and then you'll see the colors are much lighter here. So that's what it's supposed to look like. I've already taken the liberty of removing the board from the shell and taking all the screws off the shielding and all that good stuff. If you need somebody to show you how to do that, this repair is probably going to be beyond you. Not to sound like a dick or anything like that, but I mean, that's pretty tedious and boring to watch anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on these capacitors right here. Might even change over the rest of them anyway, just to be safe. But let's get underneath the fancy new microscope and check it out. Alright, so folks, I got that cluster of caps that I was talking about focused here. Alright, well, maybe you can kind of see that. The viewfinder, honestly, it's not what I'm seeing through the eyepieces, so it's a little bit hard to do this. Plus, the way I have it set up, the viewfinder is inverted, so everything I'm looking at is upside down. Anyway, you could tell that these caps have been leaking a little bit. You'll see all kinds of nastiness right there. So we're going to change all these out. We're going to change all 6 of these out, and then I'm probably going to change these out as well, just for the sake of sanity. They look okay, but might as well anyway. So we've got 4 100 microfarad 6-volt caps and 2 10 microfarad 16 volt caps. We're going to swap them out for what's the rating on these? 100 microfarad 16 volt caps and 10 microfarad 25 volt caps. Now, as long as the microfarads are the same and the voltage is higher, you're good to go. No issues there. So I'm going to turn on the fan now. Get some fume extraction. So I'm going to breathe all this crap in. Got my soldering iron ready to go. So as I clear some of this clutter out of my way. And there's a couple ways you could do this. You can take some flush cutters and just clip the caps. You're running a risk of breaking traces and lifting pads and whatnot doing that. So a better way to do it, in my opinion, is to get you some solder and just solder on the pads to kind of loosen up that old shit. So I'll just do all of them at once. It doesn't matter if you damage the cap or not because they're coming off anyway. It's not really working. You know what? Let's try this. Flux it up. Then we'll add some solder and loosen that old shit up. I'm just getting the solder on there, trying to loosen up the old stuff, and then I'll go in there with a tweezer and the hot iron or the soldering iron and try to lift them up. Still trying to figure out the angles on this thing. It's kind of hard, even with this new setup, to get this to actually come out right and be able to do what I need to do. Wow, there's some massive solder blobs there. Alright, so heat it again and try to lift it very, very gently. There we go. Just be really careful, because again, it's really, really easy to lift those pads doing it like this, or doing it at all. These older boards seem to be very brittle. Alright, seems like those came out pretty well. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some wick, grab some wick, and just clean up the pads as much as I can. Add some fresh solder. And if you've got surface mount caps to do this with, great. To me, it's, I don't know, it's just easier and cheaper to use the electrolytic caps with the legs. I think most people say that too. Of course, as you're doing this, just kind of drag it along and not really putting a whole lot of pressure on there, and let that solder just suck into the wick on its own. You always want to keep your iron moving too. You don't want to keep it in one place for too long. I put way too much solder on there, too much. That's why you still have blobs on there after doing this. Unbelievable. Alrighty, so there's a little bit of shakiness going on here every time I put my face up to the microscope, because I still don't have the proper mount. I emailed Amscope Friday with the issue. They emailed me back asking them to show them some pictures, which I did. So hopefully they'll email me back and tell me they're gonna send me the right fucking parts soon, because this is kind of annoying to have it rigged the way I have it rigged, and I'm kind of scared that this thing's just gonna kind of collapse at some point. So, you know what you could do is, I mean, you could clean all that stuff off with a little alcohol and a Q-tip if you like, Actually, that probably would have been a smarter idea, just to make sure we don't have any corrosion and gunk underneath the new solder. So I'll just kind of do that a little bit now. Get some of that crap off. Those balls are way too big. We don't want big balls here, do we? Slight chance that could short out, so let's get that underneath control. There we go. Alright. So now remember, you got a shield that's going to go down here, so you want to keep your profile as low as possible. Kind of bend these off to the side a little bit. The way I remember this, as I'm looking at these, right, you have kind of like a D shape here. So I always think of it as like an arrow. So the back side will be the negative, and it's pointing towards the positive. I've screwed that up in the past. It's like 1 in the morning here now, and I always talk about not doing 1 in the morning repairs because I don't think straight at all at this time of night, but we're doing this anyway. So we're gonna start with our 10 microfarad caps up on the top. See, make sure that this is actually in the viewfinder. Yep, okay, cool. So I'm giving them a little bit of length there just so I can have some room to bend them over if I need to. You hold them in place until the solder dries up and cools down a little bit so they don't move. To be honest with you, I'm not really overly concerned about doing like an incredibly neat job here. This is a Super Famicom, one of like fucking 40 that I have that's going up for sale, and I don't really care. I really don't. I'm not gonna spend all day trying to make the capacitors just right. It's ridiculous. So do the recap and move on to something else that needs your attention. That's the way I look at it. Just make sure I get a little more solder on there. Well, that looks like shit. Make an effort to make it not look like complete garbage. Now we'll move on to our 100 microfarad caps, which there are 4. When I talk about not doing this stuff at like 1 o'clock in the morning, there was one night months ago where I did like 4 or 5 of these. I completely reversed the polarity of all the caps. Didn't even realize it until I opened one up. I don't remember for what reason I noticed that it was all backwards. I had to go back and open up every single one of them and redo every single one. What a pain in the twat. What a pain in the ass. So make sure you're well rested as much as possible and sound of mind when you're doing this kind of stuff. I'm usually not, but that's alright. Heat that one leg, let that dry, heat the other one. Of course, if you move it while it's still liquid, it slides right over, which is really fucking annoying. Normally I don't like to have these little points on there, but like I said, it doesn't fucking matter. You can avoid that by adding more flux. They kind of look shitty underneath the microscope. Actually, I think it looks pretty shitty regardless, but I mean, that'll work. That'll work. I'm 100% sure that's going to be sufficient. However, let's see. How does that one look? That looks fine. That one looks fine. The rest of the board seemed pretty clean. There's no like corrosion or anything like that, or excessive filth anywhere. Those look okay. Let's switch over to the other camera real quick. So that doesn't look amazing, but it looks fine. That'll do the trick, and I'm 100% sure that that is going to be sufficient. Yeah, those joints are meh, but like I said, that'll do. Let's test it out and see what happens. Alright, so of course we got to check our work, so let's power this bad boy on and see what happens. Yeah, so it's certainly much brighter than it was. I guess we can wait till we get to the character select screen or the character bio screen and see how it looks. Yeah, so that's definitely a lot better than it was. Alright, so that worked. I don't believe I'm going to go ahead and replace these caps. I'm just going to leave it as is. They look fine. I think I'll be alright with doing that. Thanks for watching.